One of the things that's really exciting about working in the UK at the moment is this sort of crossover between technologies and the geeky, interactive technologies that I am interested in, and the way they're crossing over with performance and more traditional kind of theatre practices. And so what you're starting to see is both sort of people making games that are more like theatre, you're seeing people that are making the theatre that's more like games. You're also seeing this incredible opportunity to take work into new spaces.
I guess on a sort of romantic level, we kind of want people to feel like they've had a little moment in their own film, you know.
Circumstance has been around a couple of years now, and it came together because myself, Sarah Anderson and Emilie Grenier were working on all these projects together as a group, and it seemed to make sense to work under a collective name. And it's sort of expanded a little now, so different people that are working on different projects sort of come under the umbrella and become part of this wider network. We describe it as trying to make cinema without cameras. That's the best way to describe the variety of things we make. And these could be sort of mass participation, public events. They could be very intimate in-ear stories on phones or MP3 players. But all the time what we're trying to do is make the world seem a little bit like a film, to really feel like you're in a film. And part of that's just to make people pay attention to the everyday more.
So I'm on A1 again.
A1? Okay.
We kind of explored what we could do with locative pieces and cinematic soundtracks, and kind of took that then onto subtle mobs, which is when we started really kind of solidifying what we do together.
So a subtle mob is one of our most toured types of work, and a subtle mob it's like trying to make a film without cameras, and it's a mass participation piece. And what happens is we invite an audience to download an MP3 file. It's a soundtrack, a musical score, instructions and story. They download this and they're told to arrive in a part of a city at a certain time and press play at a certain time. And what we've actually done is we've made a few different sound files. So while one part of the audience might be following an instruction to do something very very look at their reflection, put their hand on a friend's shoulder, the other half of the audience is hearing that described as if it were a scene in a film. And then wherever they look around them in the city, they start seeing it happening in the everyday. These roles swap back and forward, so sometimes you're performing, sometimes you're listening, but what's really important for us is that it's really blending in with the world. So it's the reason we call it a subtle mob is it's a reaction to flash mobs. We're not trying to make a spectacle or some big showy event. We're trying to make an experience for the people who take part. With the British Council, we've done quite a lot of work in Japan. We've shown As If It Were the Last Time in Yokohama, and we've also worked with them in Tokyo as part of Connected UK, and we showed As If It Were the Last Time, which was actually the first subtle mob we made. And that's a piece really about savouring everyday moments. It's quite a melancholy piece, but it does have a certain sort of romance to it. And doing it in Tokyo was really amazing. I mean, firstly, translating these works is quite a challenge. And then hearing it in another language is really great as an artist, because you've listened to your script over and over again and you keep hearing the same words, and somehow it loses its power, or you notice mistakes, things you don't like. And suddenly you get to hear it almost as music, and you really just hear these voices and different tones and expressions. And also just to see it translate into a different cultural situation is really amazing for us. When we first started writing these pieces, we were writing them in the UK, and we didn't actually know whether they would translate. And so to actually see people from other places and in other countries and other backgrounds actually engaging with the work was surprising, but also really exciting. So one of the other things that's come out of doing all these projects with the British Council in different places is a network of makers and performers as well. So we get new audiences, which is really great to show that work to new audiences, but also we get to work with new performers, we get to work with new musicians and collaborators, curators, but it also means we have longer relationships with these places that we can go back to. And because we've almost already had the support of the British Council, that brings a sense of trust, I think, for these other curators and producers, and that's really useful for us.
So at the moment we're working on a project called If You Cannot See Our Light, which is a fairly new piece of work for us actually. We've kind of stepped away from our headphone pieces where you have quite a sort of intimate and maybe solo experience with that, and we are writing for little wooden speaker boxes now that you carry around. Is that cool?
Yeah, it's really. I'll show you. I'll play it to his voice, so I think it'll be. What has got the voice on it? That two's got the voice. So we're kind of still with the idea of creating cinema, working with sort of cinematic music scores and cinematic soundtracks, but rather than putting them on headphones and making an intimate internal experience, we're making a more public spectacle experience, and it's something where the audience all get an individual speaker and each one plays a different element of the score we write.
The way that we write the music is very much with that in mind, that the audience become the orchestra and the instruments that we then compose for.
But it really loosens when you get out here. It spreads out.
What's really exciting about the Barbican as a space to write this for is the sort of labyrinth of exciting corridors and avenues and spaces that we can really play with.
We make work for a reason, and those reasons change between each piece, but a lot of the underlying reasons behind our work is to solve some of the disconnection that seems to have happened in contemporary society. And it's one of the reasons we use a lot of digital technology, because we have this sort of feeling that while these tools are really great at connecting us to remote places and remote friends and people far away and different bits of information, they actually also tend to distance us from the things that are right next to us and the people around us. So one of the things that we really try and make happen in our work is use these technologies and use these situations to force people to pay attention to what's around them, whether that's people or place, whether it's sight, maybe it's just making a connection with a stranger. And that's a really important part of the work for us, and it's something we really want to get people to experience.